Barry Allen, the Flash, races forward, lightning crackling around him like a storm barely contained. He's not just the fastest man alive, he's a living conduit of the speed force itself. But today, he's up against a power of a different kind. As he charges through the blazing energy, thoughts swirl in his mind, almost as volatile as the lightning that surges with each step. History, he reflects, is littered with good intentions twisted into instruments of destruction. Images of elements and symbols flash before him: uranium, hydrogen, each representing a discovery that started as knowledge and ended as devastation. For him, these symbols hold a deeper meaning, reminders of human ambition gone awry. Years ago, he even created a new element, adaptanium, designed to protect him from the relentless toll of the speed force on his body. But he knows well that even the noblest creations can become monstrous in the wrong hands. In this charged moment, Barry steels himself, whispering his name as if to anchor his racing mind. "My name is Barry Allen. I'm the fastest man alive." But as he approaches, the sight that greets him is unnerving. Dr. Alchemy stands before him, wielding powers that transcend ordinary science. Alchemy smirks, arms raised in a display of dominance. He sneers at Barry, taunting him. "You're no match for me, Barry Allen," he declares with a terrifying calm, revealing that the Philosopher's Stone is no more. But in its place stands a new force, one that makes him the ultimate Dr. Alchemy. Barry's heart races faster than ever. He's dealing with something far worse than he anticipated. Dr. Alchemy channels the knowledge and ambition of every alchemist in history, wielding their collective wisdom and fury. Barry recalls how Desmond, the man behind alchemy, had been imprisoned, yet had managed to unlock new depths of power, even without the stone. And here he stands, ready to unleash that ancient wrath on the fastest man alive. In the heat of this face-off, Barry's instincts take over. He lunges forward, aiming a punch squarely at Alchemy's face, quipping, "You're out of date, Paracelsus. Let me bring you up to speed." His fist connects, but instead of faltering, Alchemy's grin only widens. The alchemist's voice drips with mockery. "You dare strike Zosimos?" he retorts, embodying yet another ancient alchemist's spirit. Barry realizes just how unstable and unpredictable alchemy has become, switching personas as if they're mere masks. Alchemy scoffs, calling Barry a false god of speed, and with a surge of energy, he ensnares the Flash, binding him in alchemical chains that glow with an ominous green energy. Barry struggles, eyes wide as he feels the alchemist's power tightening around him. In this moment, he realizes that alchemy is playing for keeps, ready to prove that even a speedster can be caught by the weight of ages-old ambition and malice. And for a fleeting, terrifying second, Barry wonders, has he finally met a force he can't outrun? A piercing scream echoes across the battlefield. Dr. Alchemy clutches his head, writhing in agony, but he isn't just suffering, he's unraveling. "Desmond?" Barry gasps, catching his breath as he watches the mad alchemist stagger. "Is that you?" The Flash, bruised but determined, searches his foe's eyes, hoping to see a glimmer of humanity in the fractured soul before him. But Desmond's response is laced with bitterness. "I told you to run," he hisses. "You didn't listen. Now we're all doomed." Barry realizes that this isn't a simple fight. It's a clash of wills, of sanity fraying at the edges. As he steadies himself, an idea sparks, a last-ditch attempt. If he can vibrate his cells, maybe he can destabilize alchemy's strange powers. But then, Desmond speaks, his voice a cryptic warning. "There's only one way to defeat us." Barry's eyes narrow in confusion, his breath catching in his throat. "What is it?" he asks. Desmond's answer chills him to the core. "Recreate the Philosopher's Stone." The very idea horrifies Barry, as the stone is a symbol of ultimate power, one that could tip the scales of justice or bring ruin. Barry's instincts scream at him to reject the idea. "I'm not sure that's the best solution," he murmurs, knowing the danger such power would bring. But Desmond presses on, desperation in his gaze. "You don't have to trust me," he says. "But what choice do you have?" In a moment of tension and doubt, Barry feels the pull of fate. But as Desmond channels a surge of energy, Barry knows he must take a leap of faith. A powerful burst of light surrounds him, sparing him from the alchemist's wrath. Desmond's voice echoes, warning Barry as he retreats. "You've been spared this time, mortal, but be warned." And with that, Desmond vanishes, leaving Barry alone, wrestling with the implications of their encounter. Later, at the Hall of Justice, Barry consults with trusted allies. The suggestion lingers, to recreate the Philosopher's Stone as a means to stop the alchemists. If anyone can do it safely, it might be me, he admits, though the weight of the task hangs heavily over him. Barry seeks advice from Dr. Magnus, a voice of reason and science. Magnus warns him of the dangers, explaining that creating the stone could bind Barry to its essence forever, a fate as terrifying as the alchemists he faces. Barry considers the risk, his mind filled with the haunting words of Desmond and the prospect of wielding unimaginable power. Iris, his anchor to humanity, pleads with him to abandon the pursuit. "Barry, you don't have to prove anything," she says, desperation evident in her voice. But Barry's resolve is unshakable. He knows the stakes, and the shadows of his past failures loom large. "If I can't stop these alchemists, my sanity will be the least of our problems," he confesses, his voice tinged with grim determination. With Iris's words echoing in his mind, Barry speeds through the city, trying to clear his thoughts, the buildings blurring around him like a Salvador Dali painting. But there's no escape. Dr. Alchemy appears, taunting him as Barry collides with a newly transformed obstacle, a bronze statue of a citizen frozen in agony. Alchemy's twisted alchemy has turned innocent people into metal, and Barry's heart pounds with fury and frustration. The battle reaches its climax as Barry confronts Alchemy, each step heavy with the knowledge of what's at stake. Alchemy's face shifts once more, and the final revelation hits Barry with a force greater than any punch. "If you want to end this, Barry," Desmond whispers, "you have to create the stone." Barry's eyes narrow, his jaw set with resolve. In a low voice, he murmurs, "I've done it. I've created it. The journey has come full circle." Barry stands with the stone in hand, ready to face whatever consequences lie ahead, knowing that sometimes the path of a hero demands risking everything, even his own soul. As the dust settles, Dr. Alchemy stands defiantly before Barry, a twisted challenge in his eyes. "Then use it," he sneers, urging Barry to wield the Philosopher's Stone he has crafted. Barry hesitates, the weight of the stone's power pressing down on him. "I've created a stone that'll protect the user from the madness that consumed the other alchemists," he begins, trying to reason with Alchemy. But his words are interrupted as Dr. Alchemy's expression twists into one of horror and agony. "They won't let me," he cries, hands clutching at his head. "They'll—" In an instant, Alchemy's demeanor shifts to something cold and cruel, his eyes blazing with malice. "Barry Allen," he says with deadly finality, "if you refuse to protect your people, then you will die with them." With a snap of his fingers, the very buildings around them begin to warp, melting into a churning, bubbling river of acid. Barry watches in horror as the structures around him dissolve, realizing the full extent of Alchemy's wrath. "Dear God," he mutters, barely able to comprehend the destruction unfolding before him. There's no time to think, only time to act. Barry races through the chaos, grabbing civilians, whisking them to safety before the acid can reach them. He moves with desperate speed, his mind racing as fast as his feet. "I thought creating the stone would be enough," he thinks, frustration gnawing at him. But he knows now that it isn't. There's only one way to end this nightmare. He steels himself, making the decision that fills him with dread. "I've got to use the stone," he whispers, summoning every ounce of resolve. The power surges through him, illuminating the city with an otherworldly glow as he brings the stone to bear. With a mighty effort, Barry channels its energy, halting the acid's advance. Alchemy watches with twisted satisfaction, his voice dripping with mockery. "Yes, you did it, Barry," he crows. "You wielded the stone." His laughter echoes as he taunts Barry, calling him perhaps the greatest chemist of their time. But there's a darkness in Alchemy's gaze that suggests he's not finished yet. Suddenly, the atmosphere around them shifts. Alchemy's form seems to swell, his presence more menacing than ever as he conjures the spectral forms of ancient alchemists. "I am the greatest manipulator," he boasts, casting aside the ghosts of the past as mere pawns. His face contorts with arrogance as he declares himself the true Dr. Alchemy, unshackled by any master. He turns to Barry, a sinister command in his eyes. "Now bow to me." Barry, weary and bruised, realizes the depth of his mistake. He should have listened, should have heeded the warnings, should have known better than to play into Alchemy's hands. Desperation fills him as he stares at the madman before him, the realization crashing over him like a wave. But then, in a moment of clarity, he remembers something crucial, something that could turn the tide. "I did." The intense struggle between the Flash and Dr. Alchemy reaches its climax as Barry puts his desperate plan into action. Around Alchemy, the Flash moves at impossible speed, creating duplicates of himself, each one strategically surrounding the alchemist. Barry knows that both he and Alchemy are using a rare element, lightnium, to protect themselves from the Philosopher's Stone's corruptive influence. But Barry's mind races with a dangerous idea, a gamble that could end this once and for all. If he can dissolve the lightnium barrier on Alchemy using rapid friction, he might be able to block Alchemy from wielding the stone's power. The Flash moves faster and faster, surrounding Alchemy in a whirlwind of energy. Alchemy senses the danger, and his eyes widen as he begins to feel his defenses weakening. It's a gamble, Barry thinks, feeling the weight of the risk he's taking. But to his relief, it's working. Alchemy's connection to the stone is beginning to crack. Alchemy, now vulnerable, feels the stone's properties slipping from his control. He screams in desperation as the alchemical components of the stone, ammonium acid urate, uric acid, and calcium oxalate, start to take hold of his body, bonding with him in an agonizing fusion. "No!" he yells, realizing too late that the very thing he sought to control is consuming him. With a final scream, he begins to harden, his flesh turning to stone, his body becoming a twisted monument to his own hubris. Barry steps back, watching as Alchemy solidifies into a stone statue, forever frozen in a moment of fear and agony. People come and go, Barry reflects, as he observes the stone effigy of his fallen foe. Legends fade away, but rock remains. The irony isn't lost on him. Alchemy sought eternal life, and he may have found it, but not in the way he imagined. A week later, Barry finds himself outside a jewelry store, pondering the weight of the Philosopher's Stone and its meaning. A passerby teases him, mistaking his gaze for romantic interest. Barry chuckles, knowing the real reason he's here: Iris. Reflecting on the challenges he faces as the Flash, he resolves to give her a symbol of his commitment, one as enduring as the challenges they've faced together. Finally, Barry brings the stone statue of Dr. Alchemy to Iron Heights, where it will serve as both a warning and a reminder. To Barry, finding a cure and saving Desmond is the greatest achievement he can hope for, a testament to his heroism. As he speeds away from the prison, he vows not to lose sight of his purpose, knowing that no matter how fast he's going, he must never stray from the path of hope. The journey is far from over, and a new challenge awaits him. Endless winter is on the horizon.